Hey, my friend, today is Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. I'm very happy to report that Bitfarms, in a shortened trading session, closed up, I think, by about a penny or so at $1.02 a share. I think that's very important because we don't want to see the stock go back down under $1 if at all possible, right? I think at this juncture, we'd like to see it continue to march onward higher. And to the extent the price of Bitcoin continues to march higher, I think that that's going to create an environment in which shares of Bitfarms, as well as really shares of practically any other publicly traded Bitcoin mining company, will continue to march higher. So that is really encouraging news. A reminder, Bitfarms is no longer publishing like monthly production updates, right? So if you've been kind of looking around, hey, when's Bitfarms going to come out with their June 2025 Bitcoin production numbers? I don't think they are, right? Or at least that's what their stated intention is, to no longer publish those updates. I haven't seen any updates, so my suspicion is that, in fact, there will be no more updates on a monthly basis as it relates to Bitcoin mining. The stated reason for that, right, is, hey, we're going to be focusing as a company on our HPC AI data center potential. Yes, we've got the Bitcoin mining infrastructure in place to harness the strength of any Bitcoin rally, to harness the profitability of lucrative hash prices. But our strategic focus, beginning in 2026 and beyond, is going to really try to be more towards HPC AI. And as I've said before, it is something that I conceptually agree with and support. Now, with all of that said, what is bound to happen in the next, say, week or so or two as it relates to Bitfarms and Bitcoin? So it appears as if, though, from my perspective, that Bitcoin is kind of finally gaining its footing again, absent there being some geopolitical situation that pulls the price of Bitcoin back down again. I think we're going to maybe start to see Bitcoin pick up some steam here and really start to move up, ideally above 110,000, maybe to 115,000, maybe park itself at about 120,000 a coin, at least in the short term. If that were to happen, I do suspect that we could see Bitfarms back at $1.50 or possibly higher, right? Once there's a bit more enthusiasm within the Bitcoin ecosystem generally, that enthusiasm inevitably, historically, has spilled over into the Bitcoin mining sector. So I'm optimistic in the short term about the potential price performance, not only for Bitcoin, but for Bitfarms. Now, having said that, watch me be proven absolutely unequivocally wrong by the beginning of next week, right? With Bitcoin belly flopping back down to 95,000 a coin, and Bitfarms, circling the drain at 80 cents, a share. Never know. Okay. Now, Monday through Friday, my goal is to once again really get back on the saddle here and really talk a lot about Bitfarms, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin mining ecosystem, and to the extent there are any other related stories that I think could be useful, or at least that I'm interested in. And of course, sharing with you my almost real-time research. And no, I don't mean research as in, hey, let me read a bunch of text and try to make sense of it, but rather research that involves physical proximity to the Panther Creek data center and gathering data which you just wouldn't otherwise. I mean, it's public information, but it's information that's not really publicized, if that's the right way to say it. Okay. And I do want to be somewhat sensitive to the fact that, hey, if I were to see a spray painted what looks like maybe, say, plywood, right, that says on it outage parking, and then there's an arrow near the gate. I'm not going to publicize stuff like that, right? Hey, if there's an outage, there's an outage. We'll read about it at some point. That's the goal. Isn't gotcha stuff like that. I just mean, hey, I want to publicize the fact that if I see something really interesting, I see some markers that have shown up on the land, or I see some stuff that's hey, that might point to the fact that something is cooking and it's publicly visible. Well, I'm going to share it. Why not? Right? I mean, this company needs a lot of publicity. This company needs more attention. Right? And I think Ben's been doing a great job, by the way, getting out in front of the cameras, talking about the story, talking about the direction of the company. Some people have said to me, hey, man, like, shouldn't the CEO of a company be focusing on the numbers and, the business deals that are going on behind the scenes? Yes, that's obviously something that the CEO needs to be aware of. From my perspective, that should comprise only a portion of really what the job entails, right? Ultimately, what are you going to do? You're going to have like somebody else get out in front of the cameras, talk about the company story. You know what I mean? Like, I think the CEO does have to kind of be out there, has to be sharing the vision, has to be sharing, the vision, the mission, the purpose, right? The trajectory of the company, right? And by the way, that's not just for an external audience. It's really for the internal Bitfarms family, right? You want everyone to see, hey, our CEO is out there. Our CEO has confidence in our future. Our CEO is out there telling our story, spreading the word about what we're doing here, right? Internally, that's really uplifting. Hey, man, if I'm working at Bitfarms and I never see the CEO, like, the company's like obscure, completely obscure, I don't know, that's not optimal. So I think it is kind of great that Ben's out there. So, cut him some slack. I mean, look, Ben's attempting to really, hey, get our Bitfarms' name out there, and that's a big deal. I'm trying to do the same thing, and it's a little bit different for me. See, I don't work at Bitfarms. I'm not employed by Bitfarms. I mean, the stuff I say about Bitfarms is like my genuine opinion about it. And I think in some ways that might actually carry a little bit more authenticity, and in some instances, it might even carry more weight in the sense that, yeah, you'd expect somebody who's on the payroll to speak very highly about the company. A dude who lives in the community in close proximity to the key project, right, that the company's undertaking. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm biased a little bit. Yeah, I want this project to work for the sake of my community. I want this project to work for the sake of shareholders, of course, but by the same token, it's not like I'm worried, like, oh gosh, if I say something that maybe doesn't quite come out the right way, I'm going to get fired tomorrow, right? I'm not employed by the company. So, I think that was very obvious during the Stronghold era. I would speak quite candidly, albeit in a positive, sort of like productive, constructive way. But yeah, hey man, I mean, I had to sometimes get into the weeds on some issues and kind of, speak my mind about issues that shareholders were concerned about, which I was concerned about, and that, hey, I thought merited being brought up in a public forum. By the same token, I am sensitive to the fact that, hey, I want to be careful with what I say as well. I'm not out to harm the company, but neither am I here to, blindly cheerlead the company either. I mean, the goal is for the company to succeed, right? You'd agree with that? We want Bitfarms to succeed. We want the stock price to succeed. So that's what these broadcasts are about. No, I don't want to just focus so exclusively on Bitfarms that we forget about everything else that's out there. But I'm telling you, thank you, by the way, if you're a Bitfarms shareholder and you have subscribed to the channel, you have liked some of these broadcasts. See, it's not that I'm trying to build a YouTube channel for the sake of building a YouTube channel. I'm really not. What I am attempting to do is kind of like play with the cards that Google, which is the owner of YouTube, right? I'm trying to play these cards that I'm being handed. The more subscribers a channel has, the more likes a broadcast gets, the wider it seems the distribution of that content becomes. So that's really critical for you, given the fact that I'm out here, like almost like on a daily basis lately, championing the mission and purpose of Bitfarms and really kind of in a, I think, authentic way, sharing a lot of the positives about the company and why I think the company can succeed. I mean, we want this kind of message out in front of more people. Trust me, there are a lot of people out there on YouTube typing in Bitfarms. What we don't want them falling on is just a bunch of drivel, right? That hates on the company, talks about nothing but the negatives, is exclusively focused on, hey, do you want to be a plaintiff in our class action lawsuit? I mean, who the hell wants to watch that, right? So we need to get this message out to as many people as possible. So thank you if you've already subscribed. Thank you if you, like a lot of these broadcasts. And if you have not done so yet, please consider doing so. Now, there's something else that I am very seriously considering doing, and I want to share this with you, okay? Which is on weekends. Like during the week, we're going to just stick to business, right? But on weekends, a person once asked me, they're like, hey man, if you had $25,000, like how would you invest it? What would you do with it? How would you try to grow that money? And I know that what this individual was really asking wasn't for me to say, well, put it in an index fund and just set it and forget it and check back in 10 years. That's not quite what this individual was attempting to communicate, right? The idea was, hey, what if you actively manage this 25,000? What would the result be? And, it's hard to predict what that result would be, but it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. And so I've gone so far as to set up a brokerage account, a standalone brokerage account that has $25,000 in it. It's not doing anything other than collecting some interest, I suppose. But I'm wondering in my own mind, might it be interesting if on weekends it's more of a polished broadcast. It's edited. You kind of see my thinking about various, trades or decisions that were made, and we can kind of see what happens with $25,000. Maybe it goes to zero. Maybe it grows to 250,000. Who knows? But the goal would be like, hey, within, whatever, from now till the end of the year, like, what might happen or whatever. I'm going to see if I find that comment again, that question that came up, because I'd love to credit that person with sort of inspiring what may become an actual project that gets published on this channel on weekends, where we kind of follow along and see what happens, right? So anyway, with all of that said, my friend, tomorrow here in the United States, it is a holiday, so there's no trading. As I recall in Montreal, maybe throughout all of Canada, July seemed to be a month where a lot of people would be moving in and out of apartments. So if you're in the process of moving, good luck with that. I hope it goes well. Regardless of where you happen to live in the world, let's all stay positive. Let's all try to be great, and we'll see each other again very, very soon.